this is the last lecture. Tomorrow we have another lecture that will be questions, if you have. But this is really a sort of summary of what we talked about. Not exactly a summary of the material, but summary of the concept. And we're also going to talk about the future. Now, it is very difficult to talk about the future. Sometimes we can think of things that happen, and then from today till tomorrow, the world is changing, your life is changing, the perceptions are changing. So we're going to talk about the future, but we can meet again in 10 years and see if what we thought will happen will really happen. So what we will talk about, we will start with the discussion a little bit of the current perception of nanotechnology and the environment. What people think about nanotechnology and the relationship with the environment. Then we will pose the important question, is nanotechnology our future, our hope? Or maybe nanotechnology will destroy the environment even more? It's a very big question. The answer probably is somewhere in the middle, but this is important to talk about it. And then we will talk a little bit about future trends. This is sort of a poll that people made about if nanotechnology is good or bad. What do you think? What do you think when people say nanotechnology? Do you think, I don't know, maybe after this course, maybe without connection to this course? I'm interested to know, when the word nanotechnology is mentioned, do you think this is something good? This is something good for the environment, or this is something bad? Let's hear you. Who thinks that nanotechnology is good? One person, two people, 3, 4. Who think that nanotechnology is bad? Well, we don't like to think bad thoughts. No, okay. So actually, this question is really a very important question, even for the future of nanotechnology research. Because if we, as chemists, can convince the country, can convince the public, can convince the government that nanotechnology is good and is going to do good for the world and the country, then we can hope that the government will support us doing our research. That the people that are not at the university going to give us salaries and funding for helping their lives. So actually it's very important, if we think of the future, to really try to use nanotechnology for good purposes, for good things, for good developments in the world. There's actually a lot of work on nanotechnology, not just the chemistry or the engineering or the biology, but also the ethics. Is it a good thing to start playing with small atoms and molecules and make new materials? Because you know there's also some negative aspects, as we talked about earlier, that maybe going to such a small dimension can hurt our body. Because the nanoparticles, as we saw in one of the first lecture, they can go into our brain, they can hurt our health, they can damage our water and the environment. So there is a lot of discussion, ethical discussion in philosophy, in social science, about the benefits and the harm of nanotechnology. You know, we talked about the good things and bad things about nanotechnology in our first lecture. And this is actually, I think it's a very representative slide that shows the two parts of nanotechnology and how people perceive nanotechnology. On the one hand, we have all the environmental pollution and damage because of nanotechnology, because of industries that use nanotechnologies to make new materials, to use nanotechnology to generate new energy sources. All this is causing pollution. This is the bad thing. But also, if you think about it, there is a lot, and we talked about it, a lot that nanotechnology can do to help with cleaning this pollution. And this is something that we always need to remember. If there's bad things that nanotechnology does to the world, we need to use the same nanotechnology to offer solutions. This is actually the main power of science in general. Science can be used for bad things, but science and us as scientists can do good things. It's all a matter of choice. Actually, this is something that I took from an article about nanotechnology in India. What are the activities that nanotechnology takes place in this big country? And you can actually see a lot of activities that can be described as nanotechnology. Even sports, even food. You know, remember we talked about the carbon dots? Carbon dots are everywhere, including in our foods. There's a lot of nanoparticles in our food. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is there. Medicine, cosmetics, detergents, pesticides, electrical appliances, of course. So nanotechnology is everywhere. And the risks and the benefits of nanotechnology are everywhere in all these broad fields. So if people ask you in the future, okay, so what nanotechnology actually does for us? Maybe this is something that you learn in your chemistry courses. You have this lecturer coming from overseas and gives you 1 week of lectures, but maybe it's not related to our real life. That's not true. And this is actually something that very important that people will know, because these things, the whole spectrum of activities and contributions of nanotechnology, this determines the perception of people about nanotechnology. It's not something abstract, it is something real. For example, did you know that nanotechnology is also in our clothes, in textiles? I actually didn't know until I started working on this and reading about this. So textile, our clothes, we have nanotechnology there, okay? We have nanotechnology in developing clothes which are wrinkle resistant, using nanomaterials. We can strengthen clothes using nanomaterials. We can block UV light, which is very important to prevent cancer to the skin and old age for the skin, just using nanomaterials. Sunscreen is made of nanoparticles. Computing, of course, antibacterial clothes and surfaces and other things that are all nanotechnology. So the message of this lecture is actually, you can see in this slide. This is a representative picture of what we and the people in general can think and do about nanotechnologies. We have the toxicity. PNEC and PCR are just polymer, some plastics that make nanoparticles. They can be toxicity, but then there can be benefits. Now let's think about future trends. What the future holds for nanotechnology and the impact of nanotechnology on our lives. Here, these are the top 9 trends in nanotechnology based on a poll. There was some website, I think it was in Science or Nature, that scientists from all over the world, scientists, could answer what are the future trends of nanotechnology. And this is the list. It's actually a very interesting list. Some of the topics, we talked about it in this course: carbon nanomaterials, semiconductor nanodevices, green nanotechnology, nanocomposite material that have different nanostructures that together make good and new materials. Nanosensors, we talked about it in this class. Nanofilms, which can have different applications. Nanoencapsulation, mostly in medicine, in encapsulating drugs in nanocapsules and using them for drug development. Of course, energy nanomaterials, we saw it's a very big and important field, and computational nanotechnologies. Now, here we can see one direction which I think holds a lot of promise for nanotechnology. You know, the world generates so much waste. Lots of plastic waste, lots of waste in water, lots of waste in the air, trash, contamination, pollution. The problem of waste is already one of the major environmental problems in the world these days. It can simply swallow us on the way, all the waste and pollution generated by waste. I think that nanotechnology is going to be a main solution for dealing with waste. In some lectures this week, we talked about this. We talked about how carbon dioxide can destroy organic pollutants. We talked about metal nanoparticles cleaning water. I think that this direction, this trend, will be a very important activity for the future. And maybe you will do that. Maybe you will work on nanotechnology for waste disposal and for overcoming the waste problem. There will be a lot of nanotechnology applications, new nanotechnology applications in industry. There might be even new industries starting from nanotechnology and nanomaterials. For example, cars. New cars now There's many cars that are electrical. Electrical cars need better batteries, stronger batteries. Here, nanotechnology can really play a major role, developing new technologies for batteries. Information technology. We need stronger and stronger computing power. For example, for development of artificial intelligence. In order to do that, we need smaller and smaller electrical circuits, electronic circuits. Nanotechnology will make a big impact in this field. It already does. It will be even more prominent and more active in the future. Of course, textile, food, agriculture, extremely diverse fields, all can be contributed by nanotechnology research. Climate change is one of the most serious problems of our times. This is something that it continues, I think, especially in a place like India, where it's already hot. If it's going to be more hot, it's going to be impossible to live here. Okay? Climate change is actually a huge challenge for all of science. But nanotechnology can actually make a very important contribution here as well. As we said, remediation of pollution, sensing and monitoring heat, pollution, CO2 generation from various sources and other gases, biofuels and alternative energy, all are involved, or in all these fields, nanotechnology is very important. Let's talk a little bit about the future, or possibility for the future, for positive and negative impacts of nanotechnology on the environment. Actually, this slide could be the first slide in this course. We need to remember that nanomaterials are not only man-made. You know, volcanoes, for example, fires, they all occur naturally and they generate nanomaterials and nanoparticles. These nanomaterials can go to the water, to the air, and to the soil. They can cause us health problems. But if we learn how to deal with them and how to use these for good benefits and not bad, we're going to be in good shape. Of course, the pollution is a big problem. That's the negative part of nanotechnology. But let's finish with the positive part of nanotechnology and its possible contribution. Nanotechnology can really help us solve many problems in the world these days. Okay? Here, this shows solutions for water. But if you think about it, nanotechnology can be used in all different aspects, in all different challenges that the world is facing. So let's be hopeful, and I hope that you will take it and make the world a better place using nanotechnology or anything else. And thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for this nice insights for future perspectives for the nanotechnology field.
actually, we can use computations with AI or without AI in general to help us finding new applications of nanotechnology, new materials. So computation will be a very important tool for doing nanotechnology research. So nanotechnology per se will not be to do computation and calculations or to do AI, but the way I see it, that all these things, all the calculations and algorithms and artificial intelligence, all if they're used smartly, they can really help in developing new technologies and new solutions using nanotechnology to help the world.
Sir, one more question, sir.
Sure.
Sir, what is the future aspects of scaling these lab-based experiments to an industrial scale, or how can we scale it, or what are the problems we are facing?
Look, in general, regardless of nanotechnology, to scale up processes and technologies that you develop in the lab and to go to industrial scale is not an easy thing. This is something, you have, in many cases, things that work great in the lab, but if you try to do upscaling, if you want to go to industrial scale, they don't work. So this problem you will find in nanotechnology and also in general in chemical research. So we're going to have to learn how to do that.
Any other question?
Thank you for that nice presentation. Just one general question. What's your view about what's going to be the role of chemistry in the future of nanotechnology?
Thank you. I think chemistry will be a major part of nanotechnology research. Because as we saw this week, chemistry is everywhere. Even if you have applications for electronics, even if you have applications for biology, for engineering, you need the chemistry in order to first make important materials, understand how the important materials can help electronics, biology, medicine, etc. So chemistry is everywhere. So you're in a good place if you study chemistry.
Maybe you can also share your views about what would be your advice to someone who want to get entered into academics related to nanotechnology. For example, this gentleman was asking me what's the future of doing PhD in nanotechnology. So what would be your advice?
So actually, I don't know. I don't think, well, at least not in my university, there's no degree in nanotechnology. But you can do PhD in chemistry or chemical engineering or materials engineering and focus on problems related to nanotechnology. Then you can make a contribution, you can publish papers that are related to nanotechnology, and you're going to be part of the field, part of the activity about nanotechnology.
Thank you, sir. I listened to your previous lecture. So you have covered most of the nanotechnology materials area. So the applications is very all area like capacitor, conductor. So this is my personal interest that can we use that nanogauge or supramolecular molecule, so molecular level, those things. So can we commercialize it? Can we make this kind of materials which actually we can use in industrial scale?
I'm sure we can use it. Actually, the materials that you described yesterday can be used, but you're the expert. I think many things in chemistry you can commercialize. The secret is to know how to make the lab chemistry attractive for people in general. And for this, sometimes you need not scientists, but people that deal with technology and technology development. But everything that we do in the lab, not everything, many things that we do in the lab can be commercialized and make into industries.
Because
Yes, thank you, Professor Raj. I would say that your lecture have made us to understand much more with nanotechnology and applications of these nanomaterials, right? So I would say, like after your slide, it's like we can't say like nano against nano,
I'm sorry?
nano against nano.
It's a great way to describe it. Yeah. It's just like, in China there is this yin and yang. So this is it. Like everything. Love and hate.
So one of our students is little hesitate that actually to he has a good question.
Okay.
Like we have learned that there is lots of use of nanomaterials in chemistry, in medicine, mainly in medicines, and she wants to have your view the use of what's the use of nanotechnology in biotechnology from your side.
Well, in biotechnology, in many cases, you need to design small chemical systems that will help biology. For example, a good example is an interesting, relevant system is that people want to do genetic engineering or to cure genetic disease. The way you do it, you need to take DNA and bring it into the cell so it will fix the bad DNA in a genetic disease, for example. So there is an activity about designing a chemical cage, just like we heard yesterday, that can carry DNA through our mouth or through our blood and take it to the cell and then inject the DNA into the cell. This is nanotechnology. To design the vehicle, the drug delivery. Exactly. So this is just one example of how nanotechnology can help biotechnology. There are many other examples.
Yes, sir. Just in your support, I would like to add, perhaps Matsu was asking about application. I think, sir, this application integrated circuit, ultra pure silicon, that goes on nano level.
Yes, of course.
So that is the direct application, modern technology. The fabrication part nowadays, the size of the chip is reducing. But the number of integrated circuit is increasing. So that is because of the application part of the nanotechnology. I think nanolithography, is it?
Nanolithography is a very important technique to make circuits, nanocircuits, integrated circuits.
About the computational chemistry, like if you use some DFT density functional theory or some other scientific software to calculate the electron density to find out the structure of the nanomaterial, there are some models. So there also the peoples are using some model to know the structure and function of the nanomaterial. These two are the major burning area one of the major burning areas regarding the computational research in nanoscience and nanotechnology. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, that's of course one.
Okay.
Well, we don't want you to go away from this side, so we can have more and more discussion. Just a small query. Like we know people are dying because of heavy pollutions, pollutants, right? Nowadays we talked about this like microplastics, right? If someone is, you know, severely affected by microplastics, so is there any data that how much microplastic we are consuming?
Yes, actually, there are lots of research which are actually very scary because the research found that over the years there's a lot of plastics accumulating in our cells, in our brains, in our lungs. People don't know exactly what they do in the body. If it's bad, if it's very bad, maybe little bad. But the fact is that microplastic is everywhere. We eat it in our fish, even vegetables. We breathe it and it goes into our body. That's a big problem. Maybe over the years we will find that some diseases are related to microplastics. Maybe. But definitely we know that it is a problem. We know that this is a health issue.
So everything might be contaminated with microplastic, whether you water.
Not everything, but many things.
I think no more questions from the audience side. So we shall thank to Professor Raj. Yes, one more question, sir. Sir, I want to know that there's a technique which we can find out that the person is affected from the drugs or the alcohol as is a major problem. So in a nanoparticles and something which show that or which tell us that the other person is affected from drugs or alcohol in major amount.
Well, this is a chemistry research or biology research. I don't see the connection with nanotechnology, what you're asking, or maybe I missed your question. But to find out about alcohol or drugs, this is a biology or biochemistry research, but I don't see the connection to nanotechnology.
Okay, she is asking the extent of, suppose we are seeing, we are looking at the druggist.
Okay.
One person is there who takes regularly the drugs.
Okay.
So, is there any technique or method to know at what extent they are habitual to the drugs or alcohol?
There are techniques that can measure drugs in our blood, for example. Some of these techniques are related to nanotechnology, but some of these techniques are just chemistry techniques. But it is possible to actually now diagnose drug uptake and drug abuse and alcohol using various very nice and very interesting systems.
These techniques, drug abuse.
I don't know if you can use nanotechnology to stop drug abuse, but you can use chemistry and you can use psychology.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Yes, one more question. Okay. So first of all, thank you, sir. Your lectures are very, very interesting. Sir, my question is that if you want to suggest an experiment to us at master's level, that we
can perform related to nanotechnology?
Look, there's million of experiments you can do. You need to find good question first in order to do experiments. I think one thing in my research is, for example, these carbon dots. They're easy to make. So if you can make carbon dots, you can use them for many types of experiments. And this is actually an advice I would give you. Try to find good way, an easy way, relatively speaking, to answer important questions. If you will think about this, this will give you good experiment to do in your master's degree. You need to think. It's not easy. It's not something that comes out every day. But if you think of good technique and good questions, integrate them together, you can have good experiment and good project for master and good paper.
Any more questions? Thank you for all your lectures. Can we get your all slides? All PowerPoint presentations?
Yeah, I can give to Professor Patra or to whoever. Sure, yeah. I can send them to you, no problem. You can use them. Sure.
We have shared the YouTube link, I think, group also.
And watch it again and again to have better understanding, right, of this nanotechnology, what Professor Raj has explained, all continuously for 4 or 5 days, right? And we will have also the material, the content, okay, for all of you. Thank you.
I think now I should conclude this session, morning session. And thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.